Welcome back to Black Thread Mysteries, where we unravel the shadows that the world quietly steps over. Today, we begin with a single, haunting frame, an elevator door that refuses to close. A young woman steps inside. She presses random buttons. Then, she peeks outside nervously, hides in the corner, waves her arms oddly, and vanishes. That woman was Elisa Lam. In 2013, the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles was already infamous, a relic of crime, tragedy, and long-forgotten souls. But what happened inside room 412 would reignite the hotel's dark legacy. Elisa Lam, a Canadian student visiting LA alone, checked into the hotel and never checked out. Her disappearance would become one of the internet's most chilling obsessions, primarily because of one disturbing video, the last known footage of her alive, captured by the hotel elevator's security camera. That video, uploaded by the LAPD to seek public assistance, did more than spark tips. It invited theories. Millions of people across the globe watched as Elisa's erratic elevator behavior played out like a scene from a psychological horror film. She presses every button. She steps in and out. She hides, gestures to something, or someone off-screen. But the most unnerving detail wasn't her behavior. It was the footage itself. Digital forensics experts and curious netizens alike began to pick apart the 4-minute clip. Why was there a strange jump between frames? Why did the elevator door remain open for nearly 2 full minutes? A mechanical impossibility according to the model's specs. Why was the timestamp blurred? And why did the speed seem off? This wasn't just a case of a missing woman anymore. It was a riddle wrapped in corrupted video, a ghost story coded in pixels. And once Elisa's body was found in the hotel's rooftop water tank days later, naked, decomposed, and with no clear explanation, the mystery became anything darker. A question of whether we were watching an innocent death, or something edited, staged, and deliberately manipulated. Tonight, we peel back the layers of what the public wasn't supposed to notice. What really happened in that elevator? And more importantly, what was removed? Before we dive deeper into the footage, we need to understand the setting. The Kotki Cecil Hotel is no ordinary building. It's a character of its own in this mystery. Located in downtown Los Angeles, right next to the notoriously unstable Skid Row, the hotel has a long and chilling history of suicides, murders, and guests who simply vanished. Serial killers like Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, and Jack Unterweger, an Austrian murderer, both stayed at the Cecil. Death wasn't a coincidence here. It felt like a companion. In January 2013, Elisa Lam, a bright and curious 21-year-old student from Vancouver, checked into the hotel during her solo California tour. She shared a hostel-style room on the 5th floor with other female travelers. But within a couple of days, her behavior became odd. Roommates reported Elisa acting strangely, talking to herself, writing cryptic notes. Management moved her into a private room. Many now believe that Elisa may have been experiencing a manic episode. She had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression. But what complicates this theory is what happened next. On January 31st, Elisa stopped contacting her family. She missed her scheduled checkout. Her belongings were left behind. Her phone was unreachable. A missing persons report was filed, and within a few days, the LAPD released the now infamous elevator video. It was recorded on February 1st but wasn't released until February 14th, over 2 weeks later. Why the delay? Some suggest police were combing through footage. Others think something was being decided or edited. People online were quick to point out irregularities, the way time jumps in the video, the missing minute, the strange slowdown effect, the door that doesn't close even after Elisa steps out. Some claimed this was merely a glitch or an automatic door hold. Others weren't so convinced. Ease. Experts analyzing the elevator model, Otis Series 1, found no reason for a door to stay open that long unless someone outside was pressing the door open button. But in the footage, no one is there. The hotel's layout also came under scrutiny. To access the rooftop water tanks where Elisa was eventually discovered, a person had to pass through a locked door with an alarm. That door never went off. There was no sign of forced entry, no security alert. Yet somehow, Elisa ended up inside a sealed water tank. So if the elevator video was our only clue, was it giving us the whole truth? Or were crucial seconds deleted? Seconds that could show someone else with Elisa. As soon as the LAPD released the elevator footage, it spread like wildfire across the internet. But not just because it was strange. It was haunting. Elisa's behavior inside that small, dimly lit elevator seemed deeply unnatural. She presses every button, hides in the corner, steps out and gestures strangely into the hallway. Some say it looks like she's playing a game. Others believe she's talking to someone we can't see. Paranormal theories weren't far behind. But it wasn't just the unsettling visuals. Viewers began to dissect the clip frame by frame. Reddit forums, YouTube analysts, and tech-savvy users around the world began to notice something. The video appears altered. From jumpy timestamps to frame blurring, it was clear something was off. In fact, there's a moment when the elevator clock jumps ahead by over 53 seconds. That time is unaccounted for. No explanation has ever been given. People speculated. Was there someone edited out of the video? A hotel staff member, perhaps? Or another guest who entered the scene? Was Elisa fleeing someone who had been stalking her? If so, why hide that fact? And most importantly, who would have the motive to conceal that? Multiple theories sprang up like wildfire. Cover-up by hotel staff. Some believed the Cecil Hotel, already struggling with its dangerous reputation, couldn't afford another scandal involving foul play. Police editing for privacy. The official narrative claimed portions may have been removed for privacy reasons or irrelevance to the investigation. But critics found that reasoning hollow, especially when what was removed might be the key to understanding the last moments of Elisa's life. Technical malfunction. There were claims that the security system simply glitched, but professionals in the surveillance field pointed out, elevator footage doesn't usually jump unless edited. Even the way Elisa moved appeared out of sync. Some said the frame rate had been slowed to obscure identities or mask the true timeline. Her arms flailed in a jerky, puppet-like fashion. Her fingers twisted in a way that sparked endless debate. Was it mental distress, drug influence, or kinqua, a coded signal to someone off camera? As the internet poured over every detail, the story began to take on a life of its own. TikToks, fan theories, creepy reenactments. For every explanation offered, new questions emerged. And at the center of it all, one disturbing truth no one could escape. Elisa Lam never left that hotel alive. 19 days after Elisa Lam was last seen, hotel guests began to file strange complaints. The water pressure had weakened. The tap water tasted strange. Some even claimed it had a dark color. Then came the horror. On February 19, 2013, a maintenance worker climbed to the hotel's roof and made a discovery that would shock the world. Elisa Lam's body was found, floating inside one of the 4 large water tanks that supplied water to the entire building. She was naked, her clothes floating beside her, no visible trauma, no signs of struggle, and somehow the hatch to the tank, a heavy metal lid, was closed when her body was found. Immediately, the questions multiplied. How did Elisa, a young woman of slight build, manage to climb the security-laden rooftop, bypass locked doors and alarms, and lift the heavy hatch to a water tank? Even if she managed to get in, how could she close it from inside. The Los Angeles County coroner eventually ruled the death accidental, citing drowning, with bipolar disorder as a significant factor. But skeptics weren't satisfied. Why wasn't there a single scream heard, either by guests or on surveillance? Why didn't the tank's hatch appear disturbed? Security experts chimed in, explaining the rooftop was one inaccessible to guests without triggering alarms. Even hotel staff needed keys to access the doors. Elisa would have had to take a fire escape, which involved climbing up several metal ladders exposed to the outside. Could someone in a psychotic state really have coordinated that path? In total darkness? There's also the chilling fact that her phone was never recovered. It vanished. Along with it, any hope of knowing who she may have contacted in those final hours. No GPS logs, no social media pings, just silence. Water experts also pointed out a disturbing reality. Once inside a tank of that size and was some depth, getting out is nearly impossible. There's no ladder inside. The lid is too heavy and positioned above the bather. If Elisa had climbed in alone, she would have needed superhuman strength. Or she wasn't alone at all. Was Elisa placed in the tank by someone else after death? Did someone help her inside and shut the lid? Or was it suicide, despite the inexplicable physical challenges? The coroner's report did not fully address these logistics. Instead, the public was left with vague language and uncomfortable gaps. Every detail of the water tank scene raised more than just eyebrows. It raised suspicions. Theories ranging from serial killers to satanic cults began swirling across the internet. But what if the answer was simpler, or far more complicated than anyone dared to admit? The real puzzle wasn't Elisa's body being found in the water tank. It was how it got there at all. When the coroner's report was finally released in June 2013, 5 months after Elisa's body was discovered, it brought more confusion than closure. The official cause of death was listed as accidental drowning, with Elisa's bipolar disorder noted as a significant condition. But to many, this document read more like a puzzle box than a conclusion. Most glaring was the lack of physical injuries. No bruises, no broken bones, no signs of sexual assault. This was notable because Elisa had allegedly climbed up several flights of stairs, a ladder to the roof, and then into a large metal tank, all while naked. Wouldn't there be scratches, bruises, or abrasions? Then came the toxicology report. It showed no signs of alcohol or recreational drugs, which ruled out the idea that she was intoxicated. However, traces of Elisa's prescription medications for bipolar disorder were present, but not in levels consistent with full daily usage. This led some to speculate she might have stopped taking her medication, which could trigger a manic or psychotic episode. But here's the twist. The report also stated that the toxicology findings were inconclusive due to suboptimal sample conditions. In simpler terms, even science wasn't sure what was going on. But perhaps most confusing were the timeline inconsistencies. It took nearly 3 weeks to locate her body, even though the water tanks had been searched earlier. How could trained personnel miss something so vital? Some theorists believe the delay was intentional, allowing key evidence to degrade or disappear altogether. There were also chilling oddities in the condition of Elisa's body. According to the report, she was born completely naked, but her clothes were found at the bottom of the tank, heavy with sand-like particulate matter. That raised questions. Why remove her clothes? Did she disrobe or entering the tank, as some cases of hypothermia suggest? Or were the clothes removed afterward, perhaps by someone else? Even the livor mortis patterns, which help determine how a body was positioned after death, didn't align neatly with the theory of accidental drowning. There were hints, subtle but chilling, that the body may have been moved post-mortem. The autopsy also failed to provide any explanation for Elisa's missing cell phone. Nor did it mention any water or liquid found in her stomach or lungs, an important factor in determining if she drowned while alive. This critical omission only deepened the shadows. Ultimately, the coroner's report served less as a conclusion and more like a smokescreen, one that left just enough room for questions to breed. Officially, her death was accidental. Unofficially, the inconsistencies painted a different, much darker picture. In the world of unsolved mysteries, a report should clear things up, but in Elisa Lam's case, it only made the waters murkier, both figuratively and literally. Here's where the mystery sharpens into something unsettling. We all know the footage. Elisa Lam steps into the elevator at the Cecil Hotel. She presses multiple buttons, erratically. She hides in the corner. She peeks out like someone is following her. She waves her hands, movements distorted and strange. Then, she vanishes. This elevator video became the centerpiece of internet obsession. But what if what we saw wasn't the whole video at all? From the moment the security tape was released to the public by the LAPD, several anomalies leapt out. Not theories, not wild guesses. Verifiable inconsistencies. First, the count timestamp. It's blurred, glitchy, and heavily distorted. At moments, it even appears to skip ahead, as though frames were removed or manipulated. Viewers across the globe, from amateur sleuths to digital forensics experts, noticed that roughly 53 to 60 seconds appear to be missing from the footage. An entire minute gone. If Elisa was alone, why cut the video? Secondly, the elevator door's behavior. In the video, the door remains open unnaturally long, over 2 minutes. In any functioning elevator system, that shouldn't happen unless the door open button is held down continuously. But Elisa never seems to press it, and when she finally steps out, the doors close almost immediately, like they were waiting. Was someone outside holding the button? Did staff override the mechanism? Or worse, was someone with access controlling the doors remotely? Some believe this was intentional misdirection. That someone followed Elisa into that hallway, and that the removed portion of the footage shows them but that someone was scrubbed from the final release to protect an identity, to hide incompetence, or to bury something unspeakable. Adding to the strangeness, the Batui LAPD delayed the release of the video for several days. Long enough, some say, to edit it. Long enough to decide what the world should see and what must remain hidden. If Elisa truly died by accident, why sanitize the footage? And then comes a bigger question. Who controlled the CCTV system at the Cecil Hotel? Was it the hotel management, the police, or a third party? Someone with enough motive and access to carefully curate the narrative. We've all seen the video. But what if we've only seen the part that was safe to release? What if the true terror lies in those missing seconds, the ones deliberately removed? Could they hold the face of someone we were never meant to identify? This isn't just about Elisa's behavior. This is about what we weren't allowed to see. And in mystery, what's missing is often more revealing than what's present. When the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office released Elisa Lam's autopsy report, many expected finality, closure. The official answer was accidental drowning with wasul, bipolar disorder, as a contributing factor. But like everything else in this case, even the conclusion sparked more doubts than clarity. First, let's break down the some timeline. Elisa disappeared on January 31, 2013. Her body wasn't found until February 19th, 19 days later, floating in the hotel's rooftop water tank. During that time, hotel guests used that water to bathe, drink, and brush their teeth. The horrifying discovery made international headlines. But the details within the autopsy created a whirlwind of skepticism. Despite being submerged for nearly 3 weeks, no water was found in Elisa's lungs. Or at least, the report was vague about this critical detail. That's crucial, because in most drownings, water in the lungs is the primary indicator. So if she didn't inhale water, how did she drown? More confusion arises from Elisa's toxicology screen. Though she had a prescription history for 4 medications related to bipolar disorder and depression, Wellbutrin, lamotrigine, Seroquel, and Effexor, traces were either low or entirely absent in her bloodstream. The results suggest she had either missed several doses or was not medicated at all in the days leading up to her death. That's an important point. If she was off her medication, it could explain erratic behavior. But if her mental state was so fragile, how did she manage to access the locked rooftop, remove the heavy lid of the water tank, and climb in? All without leaving any trace of struggle. Further inconsistencies include no signs of trauma, no bruising, and no sexual assault. But there were odd details. A rectum distended with gas, sometimes seen in post-mortem decomposition, or possibly sexual trauma, depending on interpretation. The coroner listed this as consistent with decomposition, but skeptics weren't convinced. Another overlooked detail: Elisa's warm clothes were found floating in the tank, separately from her body. Not folded, not piled, just off her body, in the water. The question is, why would she remove them? Some argue it was due to hypothermia, paradoxical undressing. But the Los Angeles weather that night wasn't particularly cold. Ultimately, the report raised more doubts than it resolved. Why such vague language in critical sections? Why were certain details glossed over? If this was an open and shut accidental death, the paperwork certainly didn't reflect it. Instead, the autopsy only seemed to magnify the mystery. One of the most baffling aspects of Elisa Lam's case is how she ended up in the water tank at all. The rooftop of the Cecil Hotel wasn't just any rooftop. It was restricted, alarmed, and protected by heavy lids that would typically require hotel staff or a keycard to access. Yet Elisa, a young tourist, somehow found her way there, alone. To get to the water tanks, Elisa would have needed to either access the roof door, which was locked and supposedly set with an alarm system, or climb an exterior fire escape, a dangerous and convoluted route. The hotel claimed that if the alarm had been triggered, front desk staff would have heard it immediately. But no such alarm was ever reported. That raises a major question. Did she go up there unnoticed, or was someone already with her who had access? Even if Elisa did manage to reach the roof, getting into the tank is another story. Each cylindrical tank stands about 8 feet tall and rests on a platform. A ladder is mounted on the side, but climbing that alone would be daunting, especially for someone in a distressed mental state. The tin metal hatch on top weighs around 20 pounds and sits flush with the tank. Lifting it while balancing at the top of the tank, then removing clothes and entering, is a physically demanding task, even for someone calm and focused. And yet, the hatch was reportedly closed when her body was discovered. This is key. The maintenance worker who found her body claimed he opened the lid to inspect the tank, meaning Elisa would have had to close it from the inside after entering. But that's physically impossible, unless someone else shut it afterward. Some reports later contradicted this, suggesting the lid may have been open when she was found. But no official clarification ever came. Their conflicting narratives only deepened suspicion. Further complicating things is the location of her belongings. Her room key, watch, and clothes were floating in the tank, but her cell phone was never recovered. That phone, which had all her travel notes, photos, and messages, was never traced or turned in. Did someone take it to erase something? Or did it simply sink to the bottom, unrecoverable? Either way, it added to the growing list of unexplained holes in the story. The idea of Elisa reaching the roof, climbing into a sealed tank, and Celie dying accidentally. There seems almost all logistically impossible, unless you ignore the physical constraints. This leads many to suspect, if she didn't do it alone, then who helped, and why? Because if this was an accident, it's the almost complicated one imaginable. 1. As the Elisa Lam case spread like wildfire across internet forums, Reddit threads, and YouTube analysis channels, a new kind of investigation took root, one driven not by law enforcement, but by the digital public. Thousands of amateur sleuths began dissecting every frame of the elevator video, cross-referencing timelines, and digging through hotel blueprints and staff interviews. What emerged wasn't a single coherent theory, but a vast web of ideas, some grounded in logic, others veering into the surreal. One of the more popular theories among internet investigators was the idea that Elisa may have been involved in something she didn't understand, whether that be illegal activities, psychological experiments, or spiritual rituals. Some online users claimed her erratic hand gestures in the elevator resembled timed symbolic motions, comparing them to occult hand signs. Others went further, drawing tenuous links between Elisa and urban legends like the elevator game, a supposed South Korean ritual that, if played correctly, can transport players to a parallel dimension. It sounds absurd, but in a case already steeped in mystery, even the outlandish began to feel plausible to many. Another theory suggests Elisa may have witnessed something illegal inside the hotel, possibly involving drugs, prostitution, or even human trafficking, and was silenced for it. The Cecil Hotel has long been tied to a dark past. The infamous watchdog night stalker, Richard Ramirez, once lived there. Multiple unexplained deaths and suicides have occurred on the property. In such a place, is it hard to believe that secrets still fester beneath the surface? Then came the theory involving government surveillance or psychological trials. Some speculated Elisa might have been unknowingly part of something akin to MK Ultra, the controversial real-life CIA mind control program. Elisa's blog posts about feeling watched, her fascination with invisible forces, and her behavior in the footage all fueled speculation. Was her behavior a symptom of mental illness or the result of external manipulation? And then there's the sinister twin theory. Yes, even that surfaced. Internet users pointed out that Elisa's Tumblr account remained active even after her death. New posts appeared in the days following her disappearance, which led some to believe she wasn't acting alone, or that someone else had access to her device and was managing her online presence. But was it just scheduled posts, or something deeper? Amidst all the chaos, however, one common thread emerged across the online landscape: deep distrust of the official narrative. From Yat, missing timestamps, to Yati, silent police reports, and from Tati, grainy footage, to Gil, conflicting witness statements. Every detail became a clue in what felt like an unsolvable puzzle. What made Elisa's case different wasn't just the mystery. It was how the internet adopted it. Her death became one of the first global true crime cases, shaped entirely by digital collaboration. People from all continents were watching, guessing, and theorizing in real time. Some say this was a triumph of collective curiosity. Others argue it was a failure of focus, leading to that wild speculation and misinformation. But no one denies the power it unleashed. Because Elisa Lam's mystery wasn't just about her final moments, it was about how the world responded to a story that didn't make sense. There's something about this case, something that refuses to settle. Long after the footage ends, after the timelines are analyzed, and the official cause of death is printed on a report, Elisa Lam's story still doesn't rest. The world was told it was a tragic accident, a young woman struggling with mental illness who wandered into a water tank. But if that's all there is, then why does this story still haunt millions? Why did her elevator video seem like a cry for help wrapped in coded movements? Why does her timeline feel like, pages are missing? Why was key footage, seconds, maybe minutes, visibly removed? And so, no one has explained why. And why did her phone, her Tumblr account, and her digital shadow keep moving, even after her body was found? If we strip away the theories, if we forget the elevator game, the conspiracy, the ritualistic suggestions, what remains is still a hollow shape that doesn't quite fit the narrative we're told to accept. Maybe that's the deepest mystery of all. Not what happened, but why it still feels unfinished. There is no satisfying end to this story. No moment when the light comes on and everything makes sense. Instead, it lingers, like the heavy silence after a question that was never meant to be answered. Some say the real horror isn't in the elevator footage, but in the absence of truth. In the way the facts were presented like puzzle pieces from different boxes. In how the public was fed a conclusion while still staring at all unresolved chaos. But others say that maybe Elisa's story was never meant to be solved. Maybe it was meant to reflect our fear of the unexplained, the way we stare into the screen looking for patterns, symbols, and signs, hoping for logic where there is only confusion. And so, we leave you with this final thought. If a story has too many holes to hold water, how do we true that what we're told not to see? Thank you for watching Black Thread Mysteries. If you found this case unsettling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell icon so you never miss the next shadow we follow. Because on this channel, the truth is never just what it appears to be. Until next time, stay curious. And remember, some mysteries were never meant to be solved.